When I first read the poem of the Man-God, I was struck by a conversation between Jesus and some Sadducees. They referred to something called the Siaman-Florask. I'd never heard of such a thing, and I had no idea what it might be. Here's the dialogue. The Sadducee says, "It is not worthwhile bothering with this demoniac. I warned you. You did not believe me. Let him tell you. Answer, you mad Nazarene. Do you know the Siaman-Florask? I do not need it." Then there's some further dialogue. And after that's finished, Peter asks, and he even bends down while speaking, what did they mean with those last questions? What is that thing? Jesus replies, "What? The Siaman-Florask? Yes, what is it?" Jesus replies, "Forget about it. They are mixing the truth with falsehood, God with Satan. And in their satanic pride, they think that God, to yield to the wishes of men, has to be implored by means of his tetragrammaton. The Son speaks the true language with his Father, and by means of it, through the reciprocal love of Father and Son, miracles are performed." That's chapter 501 of the poem of the Man-God, entitled "The Wife of the Sadducean Necromancer." In the 1989 hardback version of the poem of the Man-God, which I possess, there's a footnote which says, "This word, which is probably spelt incorrectly, is unknown even to experts who have been consulted on the matter. From its content, it would appear to be an expression used for incantations by people practicing magic." Interested and intrigued, I tried to search for this on the internet or something like it, couldn't find anything. But since then, a book by Jean-François Lavert has become available in English, called The Valtorta Enigma, and he provides the solution to the problem. I quote, "Is it a formula of exorcism or a secret term of Kabbalistic magic? Fortunately, Reverend Father Bouillet, in a rare ancient book, gives us the beginning of an explanation. It appears that we should read here the Hebrew expression Shem Hamforas, that is, the ineffable name of God, that Maria Valtorta reported with approximate phonetic spelling. At the beginning of the 19th century, another author explains, for the edification of Freemasons of the Scottish Rite, that Shem Hamaphoras means nomen explicatum expansum pronunciatum, the well-pronounced, well-explained name. And Lavert goes on to say that in 1546, Martin Luther published a violent anti-Judaic pamphlet entitled Vom Shem Hamaphoras. So we fortunately got this man Lavert, who's done a lot of research. He's gone into the 18th century, the 19th century, and even back to the 16th century to find information about this. The point is, though, that Maria Valtorta was just an ordinary Italian woman, as I've said again and again. She would not know these things. She's not a scholar. She'd know less about biblical matters and ancient Judaism and the obscure nooks and crannies of those academic areas than the editor of the English version of the poem of the Man-God, who couldn't find anything back in 1989. It's only obscure references that resolve the question. So how did it get into her work? Again, the implication is only by supernatural means. One might say, well, what about fraud? Well, a fraudster would have written Shem Ham Pharas, would not have made a dog's dinner of the word by writing the Siyam and Florask as Maria Valtorta did. There'd be no credibility to that term. A fraudster would write something extremely close to Shem Ham Pharas or Shem Ham Pharas itself. The pronunciation of Maria Valtorta, the word that Maria Valtorta has written, is derived from her hearing the term. She's not a fraudster. She's just heard it as an unfamiliar word and written it as best she can. Furthermore, it's unlikely to be fraud because if you want to make your text appear authentic, you're going to use examples. You're going to inject examples which can, with a bit of easy research, be discovered. As I say, even in 1989, it was not clear what this word might mean. It's only in recent years that it's been discovered. But this was written in the 1940s. It's not a very successful fraudster who would put into a text something which will be discovered long after he's dead, and therefore from which he cannot profit. It all points to the authenticity of Maria Valtorta's writing here. It's just one indication amongst many that I've given and will give as time passes, that this writing ought to be taken seriously. But in this case, it doesn't end there. Often at the end of chapters, Jesus discusses what he has revealed, or the Blessed Virgin Mary does as well. At the end of this chapter, Jesus speaks. He wants to dissuade us from dabbling in the occult. And actually in Maria Valtorta's diaries, which I've not brought to the attention of whoever's watching these videos, there's this emphasis on keeping away from the occult at different points. In this passage anyway, at the end of this chapter, Jesus says the following: I solemnly tell you that spirits can come to you. How? In two ways: by God's command or by man's violence. Angels and blessed souls and spirits that are already in the light of God come by God's command. By man's violence, those spirits can come over whom also a man has control, as they are immersed in regions lower than the human ones, in which there's still a remembrance of grace, although it's not an active grace. The former comes spontaneously, obeying one order only, mine, and they bring the truth that I want you to know. The latter come through a complex of joined powers, the power of an idolatrous man joined to the powers of Satan idol. Can they give you the truth? No, never, absolutely never. Can a formula, even if taught by Satan, bend God to man's will? No. God always comes spontaneously. A prayer can join you to him, not a magic formula. And if someone should object, saying, Samuel appeared to Saul, I say, not by deed of the sorceress, but by my will, in order to rouse the king rebellious to my law. Some people may say, and what about the prophets? The prophets speak through knowledge of the truth which is infused into them directly or through angelic ministry. Others may object. And what about the writing hand at Belshazzar's banquet? Let those read Daniel's reply. You also have defied the Lord of heaven, praising gods of silver, bronze, iron, gold, wood, stone, which cannot either see, hear, or understand. But you have not given glory to the God who holds your breath and every movement of yours in his hands. That is why he has sent the finger, which was sent spontaneously while you, a foolish king and a foolish man, were not thinking about it and were intent on filling your stomach and swelling with pride. The finger of that hand that wrote what is over there. So Jesus gives us warning through a clear statement of the nature of the two kinds of summoning that might be tried to take place and the effects of them, and also lessons from Scripture that the occult is to be avoided, steered clear of at all costs. That is his main lesson. His lesson was not to teach us something about the authenticity of Maria Valtorta's writings by ensuring that that was the reference to the Siem Amphorask or the Shem Amphorask was recorded. Now, it's a lesson about the occult for Jesus, but we can draw from this work of Maria Valtorta so many golden nuggets, so many diamonds, because the work is so detailed. So let us see what we can draw on the next occasion.